Do you want to know what it is? You can see it when you look out your window, when you watch your television. The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us, even now in this—
Game Theory did it! Game Theory did it!
What?
Game Theory already did this intro, like practically last week, dude.
But we are the film channel. We are the ones who get the dibs.
Hey man, I don't know what to tell you. Just wanted to say it before the comments did.
Where was I? The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us, even now in this— Never mind, the mood is all ruined. Feels like I'm just retreading stuff that's already been done. Oh man, I was so excited for this fourth installment in a long-ended trilogy. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Film Theory, the show that's always ready to see how far the rabbit hole goes. So, have you guys seen the new trailer for The Matrix 4? Between the return of the franchise, a new Space Jam movie, and a new Halo game coming out, 2021 has me asking—
What year is it?
Anyway, watching this new teaser trailer, it seems pretty obvious to say that The Matrix Resurrections has a lot going on. Not that this is a franchise that's ever been simple. It's always been built on big ideas and deep philosophy wrapped in awesome fight scenes and incredible visual effects, and this new iteration seems to be no different, but it also seems to be leaning very heavily on imagery and concepts ripped from the previous films. And I mean, they're not even trying to hide that fact.
After all these years, to be going back to where it all started, back to the Matrix.
So what's going on? Is this just another soulless cash grab of a franchise reboot? Well, it's certainly cash grab, but I don't think it's a soulless one. Believe me, if Warner Brothers wanted to make one of those, they have had plenty of opportunities over the years, but never have. One of the Wachowskis has even returned to be a writer and director of the movie, which says a lot about the importance of this film in the overall legacy. In fact, I think that The Matrix Resurrections is, well, resurrecting the franchise in a way that is both in line with the canon of the series and with its history of making big statements about how humans engage with technology. Ladies and gentlemen, after watching this trailer more times than I care to count and analyzing the franchise's past and present, I think I have the answers to all of your biggest Matrix 4 questions, while also having an idea of the plot and what the overall meta-narrative is planning to say about the modern state of entertainment. Let me just tease it this way. Neo is an actor, this is his agent, and the whole previous Matrix trilogy is a movie series within this new film. That's a lot to unpack, and we're about to cover it all, but before we do, make sure you take that red subscribe button pill right below this video to start seeing reality as it truly is, each and every week with a new theory. Now, let's begin. To start off, let's answer one of the main questions I'm sure everyone has regarding the Matrix Resurrections. How exactly are characters like Neo and Trinity alive, and why is Morpheus young again? Is that even Morpheus? Well, for Neo at least, this one has an easy answer. Despite the Christ-like imagery implying his death in Revolutions, he never actually died. In the teaser, we see two images, both here and here, of Neo being overseen by machine drones in what is clearly meant to be the real world. Notice the blue color grading of the scenes. And we know that this is the same Neo from the end of the Matrix trilogy. How can we be sure? Just take a look at his eyes. They still have the burn marks that he got towards the end of Matrix 3. The machines also seem to be attaching tubes and wiring, performing some sort of laser surgery on Neo, presumably so he can be reinserted into the new Matrix. So, easy enough, that's how Neo's back. But things get more complicated when it comes to Trinity and Morpheus, because we know they're both dead. Trinity dies near the end of Revolutions, and Morpheus, well, Morpheus needs a little bit more explanation. See, the last we saw Morpheus, he was singing some opera in the back of a Kia. And if that wasn't weird enough for you, that commercial is from 2014. The series had been essentially dead for like 10 years. Talk about your dated references. Isn't that right, Gary Coleman?
What you talking about, Willis?
But of course, that was just a commercial. It's not like it's canon or anything. Or is it? It isn't. Maybe. No, last time we saw Morpheus in the Matrix films, he was staring in awe as the machines retreated from Zion.
Is this real?
So why then would I say that he's dead? Well, to answer that, we have to look at the 2005 video game, The Matrix Online. Yeah, we're digging real deep for this one. The game was billed as an official continuation of the Matrix canon, and its storyline, which is in fact called the continuing story, was signed off by the Wachowskis themselves. Now, a lot happens in The Matrix Online, but one of the game's major factions happens to be led by Morpheus, who's returned to his terroristic tactics after the machines have refused to return Neo's body to Zion. Throughout the rest of the storyline, Morpheus is hunted by a mysterious masked figure known simply as the Assassin, who lives up to his name after he literally slides out of a small vent on the side of a building and kills Morpheus. Yeah, for a guy that survived this, his death in an alley is pretty anticlimactic. The game made some weird choices.
You know the dream! You've dreamed it!
That's it?
So Matpat, you're now saying, are you implying that both characters have been resurrected, hence given the new movie's title a very on-the-nose meaning? Yes, I am. These movies have never been one for subtlety, but I've got proof, and boy howdy did we dig deep for this one. You see, the Morpheus and Trinity we're about to see in Matrix Resurrections are clones. Yep, you heard that right, and believe it or not, this has precedent within Matrix canon. The machines do indeed have the ability to genetically engineer and clone humans with specific traits for specific purposes. We know this based on a series of obscure stories called the Matrix comics. See, way back when the very first Matrix movie was coming out in the late 90s, Warner Brothers hired a bunch of writers and artists to create comic books and short stories to tie in with the film. These were released on the old 90s Matrix website, and while they were primarily used to advertise the movie, they also filled out the new universe with a ton of stories and lore that fans could dig into and dissect. These stories, later known collectively as the Matrix comics, were all overseen and signed off on by the Wachowskis. The one I want to look at here today is a short story called Goliath. In this story, our unnamed protagonist is revealed to be a genetically engineered human with enhanced speed, strength, and reaction time. A human that has been created by the machines. They've also designed him to be interested in flying planes. And within the Matrix, the machines have fed him lessons on flying UFO-style spacecraft. So why would a bunch of machines try to do all this? Well, they needed him out in the real world to fly that same UFO into space and destroy an alien spacecraft that's been throwing asteroids at Earth. One of those asteroids already destroyed Australia, apparently. And just as a quick reminder, yes, the spacecraft that launches asteroids at Earth is a thing that actually happened and is also canon with the Matrix. Anyway, for as ridiculous as that story might sound, the reason I bring it up is that it confirms that the machines can engineer humans and can implant personal interests and desires into those humans. As such, it's not that far of a stretch to assume that the machines would be able to clone specific people found within the Matrix. So if you haven't connected the dots here, I'm saying that the machines have genetically cloned both Trinity and Morpheus, and the teasers give us imagery to back that up. In several of the shots that flash across the screen, we see what appears to be both Trinity in a stasis pod and the machines designing Morpheus's new body. Both of these shots are also clearly meant to take place in the real world, given the saturated blue color grading. This does, however, present us with a small problem. See, in the teasers, we clearly see what appears to be Morpheus's awakening to the fact that he is actually in the Matrix, in a scene that's very evocative of when Neo touched the mirror in the first Matrix film. We also see a couple of flashbacks to the opening of the first Matrix where Trinity escapes from the agents. Look at the color grading of all these teaser shots. They're desaturated and they're green, just like the scenes that took place within the Matrix system from the original trilogy. And color grading is really important with this franchise. Notice how the world is oversaturated in these new trailers? Well, at the end of Matrix Revolutions, we see that the newly rebooted Matrix at the end of that movie has lost its iconic green color and instead resembles the same look that we're seeing pop up in Resurrections. So that's a cool detail, but if these shots are from when clone Morpheus discovers he's in the Matrix and when clone Trinity escapes from the agents and they have the color grading of green, how could they be taking place after the end of Matrix 3, after the reboot of the Matrix? Well, in Goliath, we see that the machines can implant interests and desires, but they can also alter the memories of anyone still hooked up to the Matrix. So who's to say that they couldn't create some believable scenario that makes clone Morpheus believe he experienced an approximation of what the real Morpheus did years and years ago when the Matrix was color graded green? Same with clone Trinity. In fact, comparing the shots from the teaser to the original scene from the first film, you see that there are actually some details that are off. Trinity is wearing a different outfit in the Resurrections trailer. Is that just a movie mistake, a new creative decision, or is that an indication that these are approximate memories of the event given to her by the machines rather than the real exact memories that the original Trinity actually experienced? Okay, so we've established how these characters are alive, but why? Why would the machines even want to resurrect Morpheus and Trinity or reawaken Neo's powers in the first place? What is their endgame here? Well, to answer that, let's take a look at what we can discern about Neo's life here in the current iteration of the Matrix. And I promise this is going to be relevant. First off, it seems like Neo's pretty darn wealthy in this current version of his life. He's seeing what appears to be a nice therapist in a fancy office. He's taking a bath in what looks to be an upscale home in San Francisco, which is the second most expensive city to live in the US, and I'm pretty sure that that's going to track into the current current version of the Matrix as well. Additionally, he seems to be at least somewhat friendly with obviously wealthy people like this guy right here. And also, check out this scene from one of the teasers. It clearly takes place in a movie theater, and the scene that's being projected currently is straight up a scene from the first Matrix movie. Wait, what? Yeah, The Matrix is a movie that exists within this newest iteration of the Matrix, and it actually stars Neo in this world. That is crazy amounts of meta, which got me thinking. You see, it's my theory that in the newest iteration of the Matrix system, Thomas Anderson, Keanu Reeves' character, is either an actor, a writer, a director, or maybe all three. He made the previous Matrix films, which in turn skyrocketed his career to the level of success that we see in these teasers. That's what this line,
After all these years, to be going back to where it all started, back to the Matrix,
is actually talking about. Thomas and this corporate guy are going back to make more Matrix movies. If I were to guess, this new character is Neo's agent, a literal Hollywood agent. Haha, quite a bit different than any of the other past agents that Neo had to deal with. They're going back to the franchise, not necessarily the physical place. And I can't believe that I'm about to say this, but if you look at how the Matrix as a computer system in the lore of these movies operates, the whole idea is not as crazy as it sounds. In fact, it's already been established. If you manage to stay awake through the architect portions of the series, he reveals that there are multiple iterations of the Matrix. It's a program that keeps restarting, and he explains that parts of past Matrixes live on as the folklore in more recent versions of the Matrix. The first Matrix was a paradise. Everyone was happy all the time. Nothing was ever bad and nothing ever went wrong. And some have interpreted this to mean that it was literally heaven, as in angels and other positive elements from real-world religions were present in this version of the Matrix. Memories from this version of the Matrix lived on in concepts like the Garden of Eden from the Christian Bible. Want something even more concrete? Well, we actually have solid proof in the films that the second Matrix had a huge influence on folklore. This was a nightmare Matrix that the machines made based on the darker parts of human history.
The first Matrix I designed was quite naturally perfect, a triumph equaled only by its monumental failure. Thus I redesigned it, based on your history, to more accurately reflect the varying grotesqueries of your nature.
Those grotesqueries ended up being monsters like vampires and werewolves and ghosts, which roamed the land in this version, and many of those programs managed to survive into modern iterations of the Matrix. Remember the Merovingian, that creepy French guy from the second movie? Well, he has an army of super strong programs that can pass through walls or only be killed by silver bullets.
My husband saved them because they're notoriously difficult to terminate. How many people keep silver bullets in their gun?
And that's because they're literally werewolves and ghosts. I'm pretty sure that the Merovingian himself was a vampire too, but not 100% sure on that. Anyway, it follows that events from the most recent iteration of the Matrix, the one that we witnessed during the Matrix trilogy of films, would also live on in the pop culture of its next iteration. I mean, it'd be pretty difficult to forget Agent Smith shoving his hand into the chests of pretty much everyone on the planet to clone himself.
You. Yes, me. Me too.
So why not disseminate this information in a controlled way by inserting it into the pop culture of that world explicitly? And who better to use to distribute that information than Thomas Anderson himself? If you need even more proof, then take a look at this scene from the teaser. See that blurry shape over there in the background? That looks to me an awful lot like an actual prop that you can buy of a 3D model from the scene where Agent Smith gets punched in the face from Matrix Revolutions. The point of all of this is to say that in this new Matrix, it's not so crazy to think that Thomas Anderson is some big shot writer, actor, whatever, who helped create and star in an in-universe movie that dramatized the events of the previous films. This would also give new context to a line from the first Matrix movie, when Cypher says that he wants to be reinserted into the Matrix as
someone important. Like an actor.
Huh, isn't that an interesting coincidence? In short, The Matrix Resurrections is going to be a meta-commentary on rebooting beloved media, told through the soft reboot of a piece of beloved media. I think it's going to ask the difficult question of whether it's better to give an audience exactly what they want, exactly what they expect, or is it instead worth challenging them and their expectations? If you don't understand what I mean, well, as an example, just look at the recent Star Wars films and their reception. Is it better to produce something like The Force Awakens, a movie that played it real safe, story that did nothing new but placated a majority of the viewers? It took important nostalgic imagery and recycled it over and over. Or is it better to produce something like The Last Jedi, a movie that challenges its viewers and subverts their expectations for a better or worse. A story that takes the same iconic imagery and turns it on its head, taking it in a wildly different direction, but as a result, dividing the fan base. I think the machines are gonna try to take the Force Awakens route with Neo. They're trying to keep him sedated and happy, feeding him the story that he wants to hear so they can keep him under their control. They know they can't suppress the memories of what happened in the previous Matrix films from him forever. Its iconic imagery is burned into his subconscious, just like it is with our cultural subconscious. They also know that they can't operate the Matrix without Neo. He is hard-coded into the system. As the architect says in The Matrix Reloaded,
You are the eventuality of an anomaly which I have been unable to eliminate from what is otherwise a harmony of mathematical precision.
Neo, or the One, has to be in the Matrix so the system can function properly, to give the humans that want out a hope for a savior. And in a meta sense, he also has to be in the Matrix so that we, as the viewers, have a protagonist to root for. So the machines are giving him and us exactly that. They're feeding Neo a new story that he so desperately wants to hear, with the woman that he wants to be with the friend he wants to fight alongside once more, going through the motions with similar imagery to his past adventures. Perhaps they've even set up new programs like his media agent and his therapist to help guide him subconsciously in that direction. Notice how both of them have blue motifs running through their costumes and sets, the agent's suit and the therapist's glasses. Blue is the color of the machines in this world. Perhaps the machines are just hoping that Neo will once again merge with the code in their system to keep the Matrix stable, just like Warner Brothers needs to keep that Matrix franchise stable, so they can keep pumping out movies and making money, so they can spin it off into a new HBO Max show and make new video games, new merchandise, new comic books. Will they succeed? Will Neo and the audience be sedated by the same story again? Well, given the fact that I believe The Matrix Resurrections is even asking such a meta-textual question, if I were a betting man, I would say no. I think this movie's gonna surprise us and end with a huge twist that sets up the franchise to tell new stories. Will we like it? Who knows? That's kind of what the machines want to find out. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. Cut.